Welcome to The Array, the podcast dedicated to delivering AI clarity for the marketing community, presented by Jacquard. Our guest today is Lucy Colback, who writes on technology for the Financial Times.
Thank you for having me here.
So before we get started, we actually want to try something a little different today. Lucy, given that you're an actual journalist, it seems only right we kind of let you take the lead and ask us questions.
Well, thanks so much. Many of the experts that, talk about technology and technology adoption, the consultants and so on, they all say, start with the problem, not with the technology, right? Identify what it is that you're trying to achieve and then adapt, find the technology that's going to work for you. So with AI, what should companies be looking to achieve in the marketing context?
The problem you're trying to solve with AI is the same problem you've always had. And I think that it's customer lifetime value. It is brand affinity. It's the same problems you had in 2012 and in 2005 and in 1985 and in 1935. It's how can you be more effective at marketing? The advent of ChatGPT hasn't changed the problem. How we solve for that has changed a little bit. And that's, I think, exactly where Jasper's answer comes into. It's about doing things that humans weren't able to do and taking it from that approach. I think a lot of vendors take this, I would describe it as an oracle kind of approach, where you ask it a question and it gives you a very good answer, right? Or you give AI some part of your workflow, right? So how much of what I do today can I give to AI? 20%, 30%, so I don't have to do it. Makes my life easier. Well, I think that's really missing the point. That's the opposite of what using machines for what machines do best, which is scale and automation and doing things 1,000 times, rather than doing the one thing that you're doing that you don't want to do and take it off my hands. And so I think the way that I think about it is, how can we use AI to take human creativity? How can we use AI to take what we're doing today and multiply that by 10x, 100x, 1,000x, rather than taking 10, 20% off of what I'm doing to do it for me? Because that is where you end up with the stuff that humans could never do, doing something 10,000 times over, looking at patterns in huge amounts of data, rather than just being like, can you write something for me? Can you do this so I don't have to do it? I think that's the difference between solving something, which using AI to solve something that wasn't possible in the first place. And I think that's where the value ultimately is going to lie.
How do you help the individuals within a company get over the line now? Who are the stakeholders that you have to get on board when you are trying to introduce a strategy that includes AI? And how do you do that?
I think creative people within companies are like the first people you want to get on board, because obviously they're the ones that are so apprehensive about this change. We always use the analogy, like I started my career as a designer, and I very much learned how to be a designer in the Photoshop era. But if you go back, like even just 5 or 10 years before that, like there were still designers who were literally typesetting on boards. They were building advertising campaigns on boards. Everything was hand done. It's a beautiful craft, but overnight that whole thing just kind of literally transformed. And I think it's been an enabler, but definitely people needed to kind of like understand it, and it takes time to understand it. So I think it's really important that the first thing you do is put yourself in the other person's shoes as a technologist and actually understand like why they might be apprehensive, and bring them on the journey with you as to why it can help them, rather than necessarily talking about the benefits of it replacing aspects of what they do.
You have to tell people that now that something else is possible, and you have to convey that this can do something that maybe wasn't possible a few years ago, and you really have to sell them on it. You really have to convey the use cases and the value and what it can bring people. And you have to do that many times before they actually go, okay, maybe this is actually going to benefit me in some way. Or persuade them that maybe what they're doing is going to be disrupted and isn't going to be around for much longer, and that they need to act upon that.
Besides creatives, who are the other people within a company that you need to get on board for adopting this sort of technology? I mean, even presumably some areas CTOs will need education as well, and bringing on board.
People are trying to figure out how to get it into the stack. And people are trying to figure out how to get it into the stack in a way that's useful as well. And I think a little bit like what I was saying before, I think CTOs definitely will benefit from seeing other use cases of how it's being applied. Even people in tech need to be brought on. Everyone kind of needs to come on this journey. In my team, we use AWS to do a lot of our hosting of our applications, and they're moving really quickly. And the engineers don't always keep up with how quickly companies like AWS move. And so they've got lots of new technology, which makes all of this stuff easier. And this is something that I've, even just today, we were talking about, like, we need to take stock and take time to go and look at these technologies and see if they actually help us to do what we're trying to do more quickly. So I think you definitely have to kind of encourage that behavior in the organization.
I'm a little concerned about when there are areas where there's immediate value to a business, but that value ends up in this kind of consolidation, we can let people go now kind of way, rather than value to the end consumer. I think businesses will have to judge the cost value relationship as it relates to what does that mean for that end consumer. And I worry that actually the experience in many ways can go down rather than this kind of promised panacea of everything's going to be better and individualized and personalized.
I think that's a really, really valuable point. This is not a cost-cutting exercise, people. This is a revenue-generating exercise.